This video is brought to you by...
Man, y'all already know what it is. Cool green clothing. We done gone worldwide, and we coming straight out of Baltimore. We at the end of the year again, and if you ain't get a chance to support the brand yet this year, this the best time right now. We start our Black Friday deals, and our deals starting right now in November, going all the way into December. Go online right now at coolgreenclothing.com and make your purchase. Oh yeah, and by the way, if you ain't cool and getting the green, you're in the way, and that's just basic.
What's going on, YouTube, fam? It's your boy Tony 2 times, and we back with another episode of the Baltimore Way, man. Before I start, be sure to tap that like button. It's free. It helps get the video out there. Definitely watch this video to the end to hear the full story and all the details in the case. For my day one fam, y'all already know it's all love. Thanks for tuning back into another episode. If you're new to the channel and you feeling the content, feel free to subscribe. Definitely hit that notification bell so you can be notified every time we drop a new video. Oh yeah, feel free to share the channel with your peoples. Everybody is welcome. With that being said, let's get right into the story. Life is all about choices and decisions. Even as a kid, it starts young. You have to make everyday choices. You could do what your parents tell you to do, go to school, pay attention, do your homework, focus on your grades and education. Or you could follow the crowd, want to be the popular kid, class clown, always getting into trouble because of the decisions you made. And as we get older, those choices have a lot more serious consequences. For a lot of young men in them early teen years, we don't know it then, but our upbringing, experiences, the people we hang around, things we see can shape us, how we think, and the choices we choose to make later on in life. For example, if you were raised in a household where your mother and father got along, they never argued in front of y'all, showed you love and how to lead with love and compassion when dealing with others in the outside world, you probably will be better at staying out the way or dealing with conflict resolution. Much better than a child who has been raised and taught opposite. Some are taught to go from 0 to 100 at any time if they feel disrespected, even if somebody doesn't agree with them. Maybe because that's how they were raised in their household. Or sometimes the environment we grow up in also teaches us things our parents might not be responsible for. But as a grown up, it comes a time we can't blame our parents or upbringing for our choices, because now we should know the consequences of our actions. And on this episode of the Baltimore Way, we'll be discussing the case of how an ambush on a Baltimore block turned into a life sentence. Back in 2024, Michael Armstrong was a young man trying his best to navigate life in Baltimore. At a young age, his parents split up, causing Michael to rebel and lean more towards outside influences, catching a serious charge at just 17 years old, putting an F on his back, or being considered a convicted felon. But like many of us convicted at a young age, Michael was determined to shake back, now a little bit older and not letting one mistake define his future. He was working and just trying to maintain, but sometimes old habits die hard. And if you are not careful, the person we once was and tried hard to outgrow can come out. According to people that know the young man, he could have a temper problem and didn't like feeling played or tried. One day, Michael would get into a heated argument with a 42-year-old woman who we will call Sheila for the sake of the story. It's not clear how the two knew each other, but he was familiar with the area where she stayed at in Northeast Baltimore and what kind of car she drove. Even though the dispute happened, Sheila brushed it off and continued on with life, thinking nothing about it. In the early morning hours of February 19th, 2024, it was President's Day, and she was getting up, prepared to go to work. She left home. As she drove towards the 5900 block of Plummer Avenue, a person who was parked up hopped out the car and started letting off shots at her vehicle. The shooter emptied the clip. As the woman attempted to flee, she realized she was hit. She crashed her car and flipped over. As the shooter fled the area, neighbors who heard the commotion called BPD and ran outside to try to help the woman. As police responded to the scene, they found Sheila shot twice and a little bruised up from the crash, but miraculously, the woman had survived the attack and was rushed to a local hospital in stable condition. She stated she didn't know who would want to take her life, but back on the scene, police realized how many shots were fired, leading them to believe the attack was personal. Neighbors spoke out about what they heard. One woman claimed her husband told her to hit the deck, and she was terrified. She claimed the area was normally quiet, and even though Baltimore always had a bad reputation, she lived in the city her whole life and never felt that way until now. At first, police had no leads or suspects until a neighbor gave them video footage from a camera on their home. It showed everything. A car pulled up, parked, and just sit as Sheila drove up the block. The shooter jumped out and let off shots. Police were able to get a clear view of the tag, and the car came back registered to Michael. He was also pointed out in a photo lineup. The young man was tracked down to a mattress store on Bel Air Road where he worked at. They saw his vehicle parked and told him it had been identified as the getaway car from a shooting that happened the day prior. They also got a warrant to search the store and found 2 handguns. Michael was taken in for questioning, which he maintained his innocence the whole time. When asked about his car being used, he claimed he never shot a gun. He told police they can do a gunshot residue test and it would come back negative. They then asked the young man why did his phone ping in the location at the time of the attack. He then told police he in fact witnessed the shooting, but he wasn't the one who shot. When asked about the previous argument with Sheila, he claimed it wasn't that serious. Even though he denied his involvement, Michael was taken into custody, charged with first and second degree attempted hit and being a felon in possession of a firearm. As the case made its way to court, it was a lot of delays, so the prosecutors offered Michael a deal. With all the evidence against him, he could plead guilty on all charges and be sentenced to 25 years flat without the possibility of parole. But Michael told them he wanted to pick 12 and go to trial and fight. As the jury heard the evidence against the young man though, he was done and found guilty on all charges. At sentencing, both of his parents were there. His mother gave an emotional statement, pleading with the judge to be lenient. She claimed Michael was not a heartless person. He grew up in a broken household, which triggered mental illness that started at a young age. But his father also spoke out, and he loudly stated he did the best he could raising him. He claimed Michael behaved how he did because that's simply who he was as a person. He also stated social pressures of growing up in his environment corrupted his son. Michael spoke out as well, and he still maintained his innocence. But due to the seriousness of the crime, the judge told him he was a danger to society. And at 31 years old, he was sentenced to life in prison, all suspended, but 70 years. The first 15, no parole, and 5 years probation upon release. I don't know what kind of dispute him and Sheila had. It was stated she had a boyfriend. He was on the scene before police, so I don't think it was romantic. I don't know if they was neighbors, worked together, but I do know the ambush was definitely cold and calculated. And even though Michael maintains his innocence, if that was him shooting at her or whoever it was, they were definitely trying to take her life. She is blessed to still be here. But I want to know y'all thoughts about this situation. Leave it in the comments. Yeah, man, crazy story. I mean, fortunately, in this situation, nobody lost their life. But at the end of the day, an argument turned into a life sentence. But I ain't gonna talk too much more about this one. Y'all leave it in the comments. I definitely appreciate you if you made it to the end. Be sure to tap that like button if you're feeling the content. Y'all already know it's all love, fam. This is another episode of the Baltimore Way. It's your boy Tony 2 times. I'm out.